We continue to track breaking news at 5:16 as Seattle police start to move into that chop zone. We have seen at least one protester being taken away, a couple others that appears being apprehended. I want to give you some additional information that just came in from Seattle police just moments ago. They say that because suspects in recent shootings may still be in this area and because numerous people in the area are in possession of firearms, Seattle police officers involved in this morning's response will be equipped with additional protective gear. We have seen them with some batons. We've also seen them with some firearms. We're watching right now as Seattle police try to take away one protester, obviously showing some resistance right there. Commanders have also issued a dispersal order. This also just coming in from Seattle police. That is in accordance with the mayor's emergency order that was issued just this morning, an executive order to clear out this CHOP area, the Cal Anderson Park area, and the area surrounding the East Precinct. All protesters being asked to leave this immediate area within 8 minutes, and that was tweeted just about 4 minutes ago. Seattle police reminding people that a safe exit is to the south and west. This is now, I believe, a third protester that I have seen on this live channel being taken away right now. So this is the third one that I've seen apprehended in some way by Seattle police, and I am keeping track as I keep my eyes on this live channel this morning, guys. But we're seeing another one sitting on the ground right now. Seattle police trying to remove that person as well. Let me go back through just what we know in this executive order that was essentially tweeted out about 14 minutes ago by Seattle police, just saying due to ongoing violence, public safety issues in this East Precinct, Cal Anderson Park area, Mayor Jenny Durkan issuing an executive order to vacate the area. Seattle police are in this area now enforcing this order. And because of the recent shootings, the acts of violence we've seen here with 2 people dead, a few others shot, commanders are now in protective gear with an additional resources, guys.
This really has been a showdown between demonstrators and the city and business owners. A lot of people wondering, when was this going to come to an end and how would that happen after it has gone on for so long and demonstrators have really dug their heels in? A lot of people wondering, is the city going to take action different from what we saw in Portland? Clearly, at least up until this point, is this the end of CHOP? It could be. This certainly is the largest force that we have seen in response by police. You almost wonder if there's some sort of a strategy here. Coming in very early, the first time that we saw people showing up was just about 5 a.m., maybe a couple minutes after 5. So we're only about 18 minutes into seeing people on the scene. But initially, they gave them roughly 15 minutes to kind of get out. And so far, we haven't seen any widespread violence. Can I say that? We haven't seen any violence,
Not
maybe
that I've been seeing on the live channel right now. Just a few, you know, we can definitely see tensions escalating between police and protesters. And we've seen, a few little skirmishes here and there, but nothing major that I've been able to spot on the live channel. This looks like to be a 4th person now being taken away by Seattle police. And again, I am keeping track just as I watch on the live channel what we're seeing regarding the protesters and police right here.
Yeah, we're going to stay on this live picture too, just so we can show people the entirety of what's going on, including this person apparently getting apprehended right now.
And Holly and Kelly, as we enter July 1st today, this all began as we get a look at a bit of a timeline of how long this has been going on. It all began on May 29th and 30th with those peaceful protests in downtown Seattle that turned violent down in the Westlake area. We saw those car fires. We saw all that looting. The demonstrations then moved to the SPD's East Precinct, where we currently are showing right now during the first week of June. That's when we saw some clashes with protesters and the police. Police used tear gas and flashbangs to keep the demonstrators at the corner of 11th and Pine. Then on June 8th, police evacuated the precinct, marking the start of what's now known as the Capitol Hill occupied protest zone. It first began as Chaz. Now it is CHOP. That area was generally peaceful until, several weekends ago, where we had seen several shootings and 2 people were killed because of gunfire inside the CHOP. And then early this morning, kind of without warning, we just saw it on one of our live feeds with Holly, photographer Jim Jocelyn there, a massive police presence. This is the most police officers we've seen down in that area since those tensions began and just before the police evacuated the East Precinct station. But once again, we are now seeing that area being cleared out by the Seattle Police Department.
All right, and we will keep tabs on if that changes because we saw some police officers advancing, so we'll keep an eye on their perimeter. You're also getting a live look right now. It appears that police are detaining someone. We saw this just as we were going to Paris to give you a look at the current road closures. You can now see that police have this at least under control right here as this person is being taken away. Let's get out to Lee Stoll, who is giving us a ground view. Lee, why don't you tell us what you're seeing, what you're hearing this morning?
Yeah, it certainly picked up just a couple of minutes ago. You can see those officers advancing straight toward us with their batons out, and we were seeing a woman being arrested up at the corner there, as you saw earlier. We also just heard our first flash bang just a couple of minutes ago, and from where we are, we can see officers are also now moving in a line across Cal Anderson Park. Jim or Louie, you might be able to pan over to the park itself. That's where we still have about 50 tents. Okay, so I want to listen to the officers as well. We want to be respectful. So they are telling us now to move back. Our cars are parked here, but we are moving down Pine and 10th. They've stopped exactly right where our cameras are. We're listening to their instructions, and they're setting up a line in a perimeter here at Nagel and Pine. And we're just waiting to see if there's any other instruction that they want to give us. There are a few people here with us, but not a lot of people who are out here. We also see officers basically staged in a line out on Cal Anderson Park. They're telling some people to move back even farther. A block away, we can see other Seattle Police office cruisers. They're coming in as well. And we're just waiting for either other instructions. They're saying we're good here, okay.
Yeah, they're moving more.
And we can see the bicycle cops just beyond them going over to Pike, just south of us. There were about a dozen officers over there. And we're seeing a line of officers again over at Cal Anderson Park, where they had cleared out a lot of those tents just in the last 24 hours or so. The perimeter of the CHOP itself really shrinking down to the East Precinct itself. It seems they have moved out from the East Precinct and fanned out from there and are just moving a little bit further and a little bit farther, and possibly going toward, as we said, about 50 tents that are still on the exterior line of Cal Anderson Park, just on the north end of the park. But we can also probably from this line give you a clearer look at the East Precinct for the first time. We can show you that concrete barriers, those are still up around the East Precinct. It looks like some materials have been cleared out, but a lot of officers still up there. We have more cruisers coming in from the east side of the precinct, coming down the hill with their lights on. And again, the line of officers, several dozen officers now moving through Cal Anderson Park in a straight line down the road itself too, with their vehicle. They're on a loudspeaker. I think they're telling people to start to leave. My earpiece for a second so I can try and hear what they're saying, but they're certainly on the loudspeaker telling people to get out of the area. Again, that was the order that they had issued at about 5 o'clock this morning, giving people several minutes to pack up and get out, and some people did. Those who left said a lot of people who are still here were digging in and they weren't going to leave. One woman I spoke to estimated there were still maybe about 100 people who were around the precinct itself. She says she'd only seen a few people follow those orders, leave the precinct area and head south. But again, where we are, we don't see a lot of people out here. We don't see a large crowd. We don't see any interaction with police at this point. And it seems, again, as they've fanned out from the East Precinct in a line, every line of where they are right now, it seems they have stopped. And now they're advancing again over at Cal Anderson Park, getting closer and closer to the tents over there. I think we can show you that from our photographer, Louie, who is showing that right now from the side where we are. We do have some more people showing up now behind us. So we're just trying to keep an eye on a 360 view of where we're standing right now. We do. Hey, Jim, if you can point this direction behind me here. If you can show, we have a group of people here, and we're right in the middle of it. This is the first confrontation we've really been seeing between people coming up to the line of officers.
And Lee, can you hear me right now?
I can hear you.
Lee, just as you're sitting here and we're watching this bit of a confrontation, what is your sense of why they're extending the perimeter? Is it to retake and to sweep Cal Anderson Park? 'Cause I know you're on the southernmost border right now. Nagel runs up and down Cal Anderson Park. Are they trying to secure a perimeter around the park?
But it's not trespassing. We're on public property.
Again, it seems officers brought in a lot of their equipment and their officers to the East Precinct, and from there fanned out to set up their own perimeter. We have bike cops now coming down to reinforce the officer line that we see right where our cameras are. Jim, if you can point up the street, you can see the bicycle officers are now coming up. It seems they're fanning out from the East Precinct to try and set up a perimeter, heading out again, yes, to those tents at the end of Cal Anderson Park. Everything behind the officers leading up to the East Precinct is now clear. It doesn't seem there's anyone behind this line, that they have set up a strong line on the south end and the north and the west corners of the precinct itself, that there is no one getting past this line.
And Lee, I know that you've been kind of trying to both talk and listen at the same time. Do you have any idea? We're watching this one gentleman on the loudspeaker. Is there something he's trying to communicate?
I don't want to reiterate some of the things he is saying, but of course he is yelling at the officers.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and now they are moving down the street. The only way to get beyond this line is to the north, down Nagel, and it seems that's where some people are heading right now.
Yeah, that's where
toward the end of Cal Anderson.
Our camera is at 10th and Nagel. And Lee, we just saw from Air 4, we got a bird's eye view of Cal Anderson Park, and they have that entire park essentially blocked off, a place that used to be part of the CHOP as they get ever closer to those tents. Maybe in your experience as a reporter, why don't you give us your take on just how large this police response is and some of their efforts to try and take this area back?
Well, to be honest, I have never seen this many officers in any response. I've been reporting for 20 years. I have not been down here to the CHOP since this all began. Honestly, this is my first time down here, other than coming during the morning, during more peaceful times, just to get some video and then head back. So I have never seen such a large response by officers, that this is very coordinated and organized. And again, they are really setting up this line outside the East Precinct, and we're just simply waiting to see what is going to happen next. That they are holding this line, they have their batons, they are standing here as someone is yelling at them with a loudspeaker right in their face,
right,
saying they're not going to go anywhere. And again, we've been hearing that there are about 100 people who are still up at the East Precinct. Looking up the street, I'm not seeing that kind of presence of people. It's pretty cleared out and empty right now, but it looks like they are pushing over to Cal Anderson Park, to where those tents are. And that's the purpose of this right now, is to set up a perimeter, taking back the East Precinct, clearing everybody out, following the order that Mayor Durkan issued this morning, telling everybody to leave, and breaking down the CHOP.
And Lee, you've done a great job just at managing your own safety as well. We want you to be as safe as possible too. So following those officers' directions, great job with that. And what an amazing view she just gave us. A 360 comprehensive look as she's right in the middle of it as police were advancing that line.
And then you have the homeless encampment and slash demonstrator encampment at the ball field at Cal Anderson, as well as the 40 or so tents that kind of popped up. There's a full kitchen there. The Riot Kitchen has developed there. They have a community garden.
Right.
And part of the mayor's order is to remove the people from the Cal Anderson Park, but not remove like the community garden that has developed because of the protest.
And Matt, what we're
So they
seeing
should
right
be in the
now,
process of
sorry to
moving
interrupt
everything.
you real quick. On our live channel, we're just watching that other perimeter where we saw Lee and Denise get pushed back even farther down. Lee is actually live for us. Matt, we want to get back to you in just a moment, but just because of what we're seeing on this live picture right here with police advancing to her and pushing our crews back, let's check in with Lee. Lee, where are you right now? Because we can see you've moved back several hundred feet.
Yeah, you can see actually we are just feet away from the front line of where these officers are pushing us back now. They have told us as they were moving forward that we should push back all the way to Broadway, and that if we did not, if anyone stayed behind, that they did face arrest. So several times as they advanced to Nagel, just inching forward a couple yards, saying still move all the way down to Broadway, even though they were advancing slowly, telling everyone here to move all the way down to Pine and Broadway, which is where we are right now with about a dozen people or so who have all moved back.
Perimeters. This
And
feels
Matt,
really
Matt,
awkward.
I apologize, Matt. I need to interrupt right now because we want to go to Denise Whitaker, who is live near that tent city area where police are back on the move. So, Denise, what are you seeing right now?
Well, we moved a little bit further north, so we're more toward the north end of Cal Anderson Park. We didn't quite make it all the way to the north end, but now police just, I think, moved out of your view that you can see from our photographer's Jim's lens here. Basically, the officers are moving in large groups through the park, and they're just making sure that tents and things are empty. I'm not sure Jim can see this, but right here on the staircase in front of us that leads from Broadway down to Cal Anderson Park, there was, I'd say there's a good 10 or 15 blankets that were all kind of draped over a railing there, and officers came through and made sure that there was nobody inside those blankets and went in there sleeping, and then once they determined that there was no one there, then they moved along. So it appears as though they are kind of sweeping through the north end of the park right now. The Sheriff's Department was here. We have a lot of different agencies, it looks like, that are helping out here this morning, but again, they've just moved from this area north, so we'll go follow them that way and see what else we can figure out on that end at the north end of Cal Anderson Park.
And so, Denise, real quick, if you can still hear me, we're taking a live look right now at Air Force. So, Holly, what are you seeing right now?
Ryan, I'm just seeing that officers, this is exactly kind of what Denise was talking about, was just hard to see from her shot. Officers have now just moved into this tent area, and they're just pulling down those tarps, those pieces of tarp that have created this tent area. There's also, looks like a couple barricades of some sort. Maybe that's fencing. It's really hard to see by this live look, but they're pulling all of that down this morning as well. They also did a sweep of the playground from what I can see from this Air 4 look, just making sure there was one tent left in that playground area. They shook it a little bit just to make sure that nobody was inside of that. They just checked it. Looks like they were going to take it down, but now they're really focused on this area right here. Matt mentioned a kitchen in this area. This could be that area. I'm not 100% sure because I'm just not familiar enough with what the setup was like here. But as you can see, they're kind of moving through this area. Yeah, they're really pulling it down. Here's a ground shot to bring you right now, and as you can see, they're pulling down those tarps that created this enclosure, I guess you could say. They're pulling that down, and that is fencing. Okay, from this live look, that's what you can see. That is fencing. They're pulling all that down, moving that away as they really work to break up what became a tent city in the north end of Cal Anderson Park.
And Holly, as we've been watching, and I know you've been monitoring Air 4 for quite some time, as we see those officers move in, it doesn't appear to be any protesters actually living in the tents, at least currently.
No, and you know, Ryan, there was one really interesting shot that as my eyes are glued to the Air Force shot, as officers moved in that line across the ball field, I could see portions of tents in the north end of the park, and I only saw one person get out of one of the tents. That doesn't mean there weren't more in there that had vacated that I just didn't see, but I only really saw one person get out, and they've been going through shaking tents, and I haven't seen anybody left in the tents. And this situation right here looks completely vacant from what we can see from our vantage points, from our different camera shots, the Air Force shots. It really doesn't look like there are many people there. We do know that officers have been yelling dispersal orders. Let's go back. Oh, the ground shot's showing it right now, but take a look. There are a few protesters there right now. You can see the line of police officers as well. A bit of some interaction, maybe a slight confrontation going on right here, but just a real small group. We can count 6 people right there, it looks like. maybe 7.
Yeah, they gave
with
us
the Seattle
dispersal
Police line.
orders at about 5 a.m. this morning, so it wouldn't be too surprising if some people were able to clear out in this now hour and 40 minutes that we have been covering it. We've been watching this line of police officers really sweep right through the north end of Cal Anderson Park. You're getting a look at some of their armored vehicles they have as well here. We've been watching SPD's Twitter account because they've been very active at getting us updates. And I'll tell you that it really runs the gamut here. As we continue with these live shots, you see them advancing. I'll kind of give you some of the latest things that they've said. Officers say that there are several vehicles that have been circling the area of today's operation. Police saying they have observed individuals in those vehicles with firearms and armor, that these vehicles appear to be operating without any visible license plates. So there's one thing they're dealing with on that front. On a completely different note, but something they're also tweeting out, they say that officers are calling for Seattle fire for a woman who's also going into labor.
Oh my goodness.
On the east side of Cal Anderson Park.
Okay.
So it just gives you an idea here. This is where people have been living for the last several weeks, that a lot of people are at different stages, and there's a lot of things going on. Chief Carmen Bess saying on Monday, enough is enough, and reiterating that again this morning in a statement where she said the same thing. We want to bring you to Chief Bess right now, who is in what used to be the CHOP zone. Let's listen in.
Under an executive order from Mayor Durkin, the Seattle Police Department was among the first of the city agencies to enter this area today. Our job was to vacate the area and issue dispersal orders. This order and our police response comes after weeks of violence in and around the Capitol Hill occupied protest zone, including multiple shootings resulting in many injuries and 2 deaths of 2 teenagers. At this point, we've had at least 13 arrests. I don't have the specifics on all of the arrests. My plan is to update all of you with more information as it becomes available later today. I want to reiterate what I have said. I support peaceful demonstrations. Black Lives Matter. And I too want to help propel this movement forward toward meaningful exchange in our community and meaningful change in our community. But enough is enough. Our job is to protect and to serve the community. Our job is to support peaceful demonstrations. But what has happened here on these streets over the last 2 weeks, few weeks that is lawless and it's brutal. And bottom line, it is simply unacceptable.
And just as Denise was speaking there, we had our other camera that was showing us some live arrests happening. A handful of people there. We saw a couple with their arms behind their backs as well, similar to what you are seeing right here. Our current arrest counts were at 23. That was last reported by SPD at 7:45. That number clearly will go up as we've just in this last couple of minutes seen a handful of people appear to be taken into custody by Seattle Police as well. Seattle Police all morning long, we've seen them in their helmets. They've had some of their batons with them. And the reason why they did that is because they knew there was the potential that people were armed inside the CHOP as they got ready to move in. And Holly, at the live desk, we are just getting some pictures of what some of these people had on them.
We are. I'll show those to you in just a moment, but I just want to show you this live channel, which we're showing you right now. I just counted 5 additional arrests, or at least folks in handcuffs, from this situation at Cal Anderson Park. Let's get to those pictures right now. Here's a look at what they are. Let me explain a little bit of what's going on. Seattle Police tweeting out, Kelly's been mentioning and Ryan have been mentioning the 23 arrests in that CHOP zone for failure to disperse, obstruction, resisting arrest, and assault. Those are some of the offenses. And again, this is of 7:45, but we just watched 5 additional people be put into handcuffs. So that's bringing it up to 28 if those people are indeed arrested. One of the arrestees, though, Seattle Police says was a 29-year-old man and was in possession of a large metal pipe, pictured right here, as well as a kitchen knife, pictured right here, when he was taken into custody. Take a look at that kitchen knife right there. It looks like they even put a ruler to see just how big that is. So again, one of the arrests include a 29-year-old man who was carrying a large metal pipe that I just showed you, and then this kitchen knife when he was taken into custody. And again, some of those offenses include failure to disperse, obstruction, resisting arrest, and assault.
How do you think this is going to play out over the next few months as we start to look back, maybe even politically, when you look with the mayor, when you look with the police chief, of how all of this went down? What do you think some of the impact will be?
I think that we better start looking at some of the council members and some of the suppositions they made, like, for example, when the shooting happened. And I think the voters need to be aware of this. I think we need to come back to more center thinking of how we govern this city.
All right, well, thank you very much, Jim Fuda, the former commander with the King County Sheriff's Office, for your insight, now the director of Crime Stoppers. We now want to go back live to KOMO's Matt Markovich. And Matt, we're talking about the future of Capitol Hill and what this may look like in the coming days, possibly the weeks and even months. What is the game plan now for the city to not just dismantle and take down CHOP, but now to keep it from protesters from coming back in and retaking it over?
Well, it's going to be difficult. Let me just ask you, Ryan. Can you see what I'm filming right now, which is the removal of the tents?
Yes, we can see
So I'm
that
inside the perimeter. Yeah. So they removed all the media, and I happen to have friends in buildings here that I've gotten to know over the last couple of weeks. So we're right next to the East Precinct, and you can see the Seattle Parks and Recreation crews just taking and removing the entire contents of all these tents that have been established in front of the East Precinct. The police have asked all media to leave within the 6-block area and just stay within the perimeter. And what the plan is to remove this as fast as possible. If I go down here, which is where the Cal Anderson Park is, spoke with the head of the navigation team, the on-the-ground guy, Sergeant Eric Zurer, and he said that all the tents and all the people that are, you can't see that, it's hard to see the park, but all the tents have been removed from the park, from the playground, and the tents on the far side, all the people have been removed. Some of the tents are still there, and these cleanup crews will go through there. So there's actually, from what I'm hearing now from police, there is actually no civilians other than people who need to be here inside the CHOP, like you live here or a business. All protesters and demonstrators and people who have been living in the tents are outside the perimeter right now.
If you were to look at this camera shot just when Matt first got there, it definitely looked significantly different than it does right now. But I mean, when you're looking at this scene, you see a fire extinguisher, tents, clothes. We saw them walking out with some plants. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And these gentlemen you see to the right side of your screen, those are some SDOT workers, and they were just kind of cutting off some of that fencing that used to kind of be up there. But we're getting a pretty good look now at the East Precinct, and there is a lot of cleanup still to be done.
It's amazing to think that in less than 4 hours, how much has changed this morning. We began covering this around 5 a.m. this morning after that order from Mayor Jenny Durkan to go in and clear out the CHOP. And then we saw that massive force and presence of Seattle PD going in and securing that perimeter around the East Precinct Station. Since then, we've watched them expand that perimeter. We've watched them go up and sweep Cal Anderson Park and take down that tent city there, 40 to 50 tents in the area, and now we're seeing those barricades and plywood and some of the tents now coming down just inside and around the East Precinct Station. We have been told that they have swept the East Precinct Station with arson and bomb dogs to make sure it is safe. Chief Carmen Best has come through to make her statements and saying enough is enough. She has also toured the area and also said thank you to the officers who have been out there since 5 o'clock this morning sweeping the area and sweeping that CHOP zone. But safe to say, as we enter the 9 o'clock hour, the CHOP zone is now over.